recording as well. So welcome everybody as folks start to still jump in to our call this week. This is the 5th call that we've had, and a lot of you have been on every week. And I appreciate that. I think Evan's been on every week. Lace's been on every week. That may be the only ones that are here. Caden has been on every week as far as going. Where's Isaiah at? Isaiah's going to disappoint me if he doesn't make it today. He's been on every week as well. But today we're really honored, and I'm really excited to have a friend that I've known for quite some time, fellow North Carolinian, fellow Ziglar trainer as well, Chad Porter. As you guys may have gotten the emails and the information from him, Chad is an author, a speaker. He really has a heart for helping people, the desire to work with folks, work with young people. And actually, Chad, I was talking to Evan Britt this morning about you as well. Evan and I were chatting, Edwin and I were chatting online quite a bit, and we were talking about you as well. Looks like we have about 18 folks that are watching on Facebook, so hello to the Facebook group as well. So Chad, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you just take the time to go forward and share with our group. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Sounds good. So listen, I'm really excited to do this. I normally am traveling all over the country and speaking in front of hundreds and thousands of people at a time. And obviously people don't like to do that right this second. They don't want to congregate together. They don't want to hug. And one of the things I do at the end of my talks, whether I'm in front of 10,000 people or 10 people, we all hug it out. I have everybody in the whole place just hugging each other. And so, yeah, I don't know how long it's going to be before I can get people back hugging again, but excited to speak with you guys and hang out with y'all. And, really wanted to just kind of tell you a little bit about my story and some of the things I've gone through, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions and all of that stuff. And so as we're going through the story, if you want to jot down some things you might want to remember to ask me and things like that, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to kind of start from the beginning a little bit. I won't go through my whole childhood, but when I was very young, I was extremely athletic and really wanted to be an athlete for the rest of my life. I thought that I was going to go play college football and pro football and all of those things. And man, at 15 years old, you couldn't tell me any differently. I had exactly what I wanted to do. I knew right where I was going to go. And, you know, as a kid growing up, you can have some big dreams of doing things. And unfortunately, if your mind or your body doesn't keep up with those things, some of those things are just dreams, you know. But for me, I grew very quickly. I was about 6'3", about 200 pounds when I was 15 years old. And so I sprouted up pretty quickly. Did not make me very fast. I was like a newborn giraffe for a couple of years trying to figure out how fast I could move and get my long legs going. But my freshman year in high school, I was MVP of the basketball team, MVP of the football team, and ended up scoring about every touchdown we scored that entire season for the football team. We were the worst football team in the state of North Carolina. We lost every single game that we played. Terrible. I mean, awful. We did not win one game in 2 straight years. But I was already starting to be recruited by some college teams to go play college football. So I was born with a big noggin, as you can see. And I think it's because the camera is at that angle. It just makes my head look even bigger than my body. But yeah, man, I was very confident in what I wanted to do, and I knew things were going the way I wanted them to go. And so just living life is as amazingly as possible. Now, one of the other cool things, both of my parents were teachers. So we didn't have a lot of money growing up in North Carolina, both parents being teachers. We kind of lived paycheck to paycheck, but I got everything I needed, not everything I wanted. And so we would move to White Lake, North Carolina every single summer of my life. And it was just really one of the most amazing places in the world to grow up. So I started water skiing when I was about 4 years old and started barefoot water skiing when I was 10 and joined the White Lake Ski Hills, which is a professional water ski team, when I was about 13 years old. And so we were doing ski shows all over the states, and we would go and do pyramids and ramp jumping and barefooting and comedy acts and all of these fun things like Cypress Garden shows, or maybe you've seen Jaws 3 before, where the shark chases around the pyramids and everything. So we would do all of those crazy acts, and really it was just so much fun. It was a really family-oriented group. And so all the kids would do the acts, and the parents would drive the boats and teach us the acts and all of these things. So the very first ski show of the year in 1991, I was 15 years old. Please don't do the math because I am getting old quickly. So 1991, we were doing a show at Tucker Lake. It is right on the corner of I-40 and 95, right in North Carolina. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny little lake. You can literally, you can paddle across it in a canoe in probably about 30 seconds. That's how big this lake was. And so they hired our ski team to go do this ski show. And we got 6 big, powerful ski boats, a jump ramp, all of these things that we were going to use that day. And that morning I was running through the house, completely forgot that the coffee table was in my living room. I ran around the corner as fast as I could, and I kicked the coffee table barefooted as hard as I could that morning. It took my pinky toenail and it peeled it all the way back up off of my toe. So literally the nail standing straight up in the air, and it's flapping around in the wind. It's bleeding all over the place. It is, a mess. So I'm trying to not panic, because the rest of my day I got to take these tight rubber ski boots and slide my foot in them, and that nail's flapping around in the wind, and it was just so painful. I don't know if you've had a heartbeat in your toe before, but it was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. And so my dad is a big problem solver. He is a country boy. He is raised on, he was a turkey son of a turkey farmer and raised on a farm in Kelly, North Carolina. And so he sat me down and said, son, we got to take care of this. And so he hands me a pair of pliers. So you know where this is going. So he says, I want you to grab that nail as tight as you can and just snatch that nail off. It'll feel like pulling off a Band-Aid. I'm like, man, you are insane. There is no way that this could feel like pulling off a Band-Aid. And so I breathed and I said, you know what? I got to be a man. I got to be tough about this. So I grabbed that nail as tight as I could, and I got ready to snatch it off, and I just kept dropping the pliers. I just could not do it. It hurt so bad. But he's a problem solver, like I said. So he brought me a pair of vice grip pliers. Now, you don't have to hold on to vice grip pliers. They will hold on for you. They will clamp and lock down for you. He said, clamp and lock down on the nail as tight as you can and just throw it across the room. It'll just pop it right off, just like pulling a tooth. I think my daddy loves me, and I have to remind myself all the time that he does, and I tell myself he does, but I couldn't do it. So I went and found some redneck chrome. Nod your head if you know what redneck chrome is. Okay, we got one. Okay, it's duct tape. That's what we call it down in the South. We call it duct tape. So I got a long strip of it, pushed the nail down as tight as I could, just wrap it. Now, I would love to tell you right now that I could take that and I could improve your life. I can improve your future. I really can. I just want to tell you that story this morning. So we took off to the ski show that day, and everything went absolutely perfectly. Ramp jumping, barefooting, everything was amazing. Last act of the day is when we build a pyramid on top of the water. That's when we have 5 guys and a couple of girls and boys that climb on top of our shoulders, and we ski around the lake in a pyramid formation. So we did it. Everything went perfectly. We got around the lake a couple of times. The girls and the boys climbed down. We all got into the back of the boat, went back towards shore. We got about 10 yards from shore, and the boat turns around backwards, and we all get ready to jump out of the back of the boat. We jump out of the back of the boat. We're walking back towards shore. We are so excited. We are pumped up. Everything was nailed. We just killed the show. Everything was amazing. But right before that had happened, there was a really dark storm cloud that started building up. So the wind was blowing, and the lightning was flashing in the background. We could see a storm pulling up, but we were trying to hurry and get everybody off the boat and out of the water. And so we started walking back towards shore, and the 2 dads were cleaning up the boat. So we had 10 skis in the boat, 9 ski ropes in the boat, a lot of stuff going on. And so we're trying to organize everything. The 2 dads in the boat, as they were cleaning up everything, the dad standing up knew immediately something wasn't right. He could still feel the boat engaged. So the boat was moving, and nobody was really paying attention to it. Now, it wasn't moving very fast, so when the driver pulled forward, like, it doesn't have a gas pedal, it has a throttle. You push it forward to go forward, you pull it back to go back. Faster you want to go in either direction, you push it or pull it. So when he pulled forward, whipped the boat around so we could all jump out of the back of the boat, he pulled it up into neutral. But somehow that day, he just must have clicked it into the reverse position just a little bit. So the boat started moving backwards very slowly, but the wind's blowing, the waves on the lake. There's so much chaos going on that they didn't realize it. But the dad standing up figured it out immediately, yelled at the driver of the boat, who was already turned around in his seat gathering up ropes. He yelled at the driver of the boat, turn off the boat, it's going in reverse. Now, he panicked because he knew there were 9 kids behind the boat walking to shore, and so he slung around in his driver's seat to try to turn the key off. And before he could hit the key, his elbow hit the throttle. Then it pushed that throttle completely into reverse. And so this boat has a 450 horsepower engine in the middle of it, and it went from 0 to wide open, racing towards shore. And there are, unfortunately, 9 kids behind the boat, and this boat is going wide open. So if you've been in a boat before and it started moving before you were ready, you can lose your balance easily in a boat. Well, when this thing took off, the 2 dads were pinned to the floorboard of the boat. They couldn't move. They couldn't get up. They couldn't steer it. They couldn't slow it down. This boat was going to go wide open until something stopped it. There was nothing they could do about it. And so I was the only one directly in line of the boat, and it took off, and I never saw it coming. I had my back to the boat. I never knew what was happening. And my first reaction was just dive under the water, man. So I dove forward I didn't know really what was happening. So I wanted to get on the bottom of the lake, thinking if I got down to the bottom of the lake, then I would be okay from whatever was happening. And it wasn't a bad plan, except for I was in waist deep water, so there's really nowhere to hide. And so when I dove forward, the boat went right over top of me. And that boat has a steel prop about this big from end to end, and it is spinning with 450 horsepower as fast as it'll go. It creates a lot of suction and a lot of turbulence, and when it went over top of me, that suction grabbed me, pulled me right to the propeller, and it just started chopping me up, hitting me over and over and over again. The blades just kept hitting me, and I couldn't get away from it. I kept trying to pull away, and it would suck me right back to it and continue to hit me over and over. And I was just along for the ride. There was no pain, thank God. But I felt my legs being slapped around and being thrown around in all kinds of directions. So the boat finally ran into another boat that was parked on shore. The 2 dads were able to get up and turn the boat off, and the propeller stopped spinning, and I pulled myself out from underneath the boat. My best friend Michael standing there, he grabs me and picks me up into his arms, and he's got one hand behind his head, one behind his knees, and he lifts me up out of the water. And I was very curious. I had to see what happened because I knew that I'd been hit, but I had no idea how badly it was. So I looked down, and I remember seeing my right leg come up out of the water. And the best way to describe it to you, it was like somebody had taken a stick of dynamite and put it inside the leg and exploded it from the inside out. It was completely filleted wide open. Bones were broken and sticking up in the air. There was blood shooting 3 feet in the air. I got more details if you want it, but I don't know if some of you have eaten breakfast yet this morning. So we'll hold off on the gory details, but you can tell it was bad. Everything was red around us. The pain kicked in immediately. And so I looked back up at my friend Michael because I had seen enough, and he's now covered in my blood from head to toe. He's 18 years old. I'm 15 at the time, and he's just holding me in his arms. And so he puts me on the dock, and they start working on me and going, it's just total chaos. And as I'm laying there on the dock, the pain was unreal. I can't even describe it to you. But as I'm laying there, I'm looking for my parents because I remember I had to find them, and I'm looking around for them. And I realized that this was the first ski show my parents had ever missed. They were back at White Lake an hour and a half away, and they had to get the phone call about what had happened and said, you need to get to the hospital as fast as possible. And so I can't imagine what that drive was like, but none of you know what life was like in 1991, I'm assuming, except for maybe James, but there were no cell phones. There were no, ways to text and to Snapchat and to Instagram all the way to the hospital, see how things are going. They just had to pray that everything on the other end was going to be okay. So they took off and they started working on me. Now I'm a controlling person. By raising your hands, who is controlling? That's not bad. Pretty honest people. But the ones who didn't raise their hands are liars. I'm just going to go ahead and put it that way. So let me explain to you why. Because every day that you wake up, you better have a plan for the way you want that day to go. You have an idea of how you want it to go. You got a plan for that day. You got an idea of how you want it to work out. Now, I'm not saying we'll ever go that way and you'll ever get everything that you want in every single day. And it might last till lunch, but at least you have a plan. And controlling your life in that way with goals and aspirations and those things are important. You have to do that. Over controlling is probably the people that raise their hands, though, because those are the people who probably try to control everybody. Like, I want my way, and I want to hold the remote control, and I want to drive everywhere I want to drive, and all that stuff. So I'm trying to think, man, this is going to take maybe 10 weeks to heal. They can put it in a cast. They can put it all back together. They can staple it. They can stitch it up. this could be so much worse. Now my thumb was split in two, and so I'm kind of paying attention to that. And any other day it would have been like this major injury, but today it was just like nothing. And so I'm laying there and I'm thinking, this is going to be okay. And believe it or not, outside of the pain, I started to feel okay about the situation. I was like, all right, this is okay. This is okay. This is going to be all right. The next thing out of someone's mouth was, we got to get a mask and snorkel, see if we can find his foot. And I was like, what? So I didn't see that coming. So when I looked down, when Michael picked me up out of the water, I remember seeing the right leg. I remember clearly to this day exactly what it looked like. But I don't remember anything about the left side. And now I kind of understand why, because it was clean cut off. It's lost in the lake and nobody can find it. So I went from control to someone knocked me out. I just wanted to go to sleep. I was begging them to hit me in the head with a ski as hard as they could hit me. I wanted to go to sleep. I wanted to just go away. I thought that if there is any way that I can just go to sleep, because I can wake up, because this has to be a nightmare. We've all woken up from those nightmares that were so realistic that you're sweating and you're like, whoa, I am so thankful that that was just a dream. And you like have the most amazing day after that. But nobody knocked me out, thank goodness, because being awake was the only thing keeping me alive. And they got me to the first hospital. It was total chaos. I remember in the ambulance ride over there, the two EMTs in the ambulance got a little chatty with each other and decided just to talk it on up. And the one at the head yelled at the one at my feet, "Hey, what's in the bag?" And he held up this bag and said, "Hey, it's just some body parts they found floating in the water." I'm like, you know what, guys? I have ears and they work perfectly fine right now. They were not injured. Can you just learn how to sign to each other or something? That would be so much more helpful for me at this point. So anyway, I'm a big advocate for sign language, especially when you want to say something to somebody and you really, nobody else needs to hear it. But they got me to the ambulance and took me to the hospital, and they realized pretty quickly they couldn't handle me. And so they called an ambulance to come. They called a helicopter from Duke to come and pick me up. And so they were whisking me out of the emergency room, taking me to the helicopter pad. Now the emergency room was total chaos. Everybody's running around covered in blood. They're sticking needles in my chest. They're doing everything they can. I can feel the bones crunching and rubbing together as they're moving me around. I mean, it is wild. Madeline, you're gonna be okay, I hope. She's a little cringy over there. But so the helicopter lands, they're getting me through. The second, and I don't know if all hospitals are like this, but we went right through the main lobby of the hospital trying to get to the helicopter pad. Now, I can't imagine that that's how they normally do it, but for whatever reason, we went right through the main lobby of the hospital. Everybody's covered in blood. It's total chaos. They're yelling at people to get out of the way. People are diving out of the way. And it made no sense at all, but it became my first meant to be moment of my life. Now, let me explain to you what those are. And you probably have had them. Those are moments in my life where I go through something that I don't understand why I'm going through it. It's hard. It's challenging. It doesn't make sense. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it really makes you feel terrible. And then maybe some time passes in your life and you can look back on that moment in your life where it was such a struggle and such a tough moment and such a confusing moment, and you don't know why it happened. And you can say, you know what? I know why I went through that now. Like, it makes sense now why that all happened. And so the second we got in that main lobby of the hospital, I heard two voices screaming that I recognized. My parents literally ran into the emergency room doors the same time that I'm being pushed through there. Had they been 5 seconds later getting to the hospital on an 1.5-hour drive, they wouldn't have seen me. They didn't stop the stretcher. They didn't slow down. They had to run and catch up with me. And they had about 5 seconds beside me, told me they loved me, everything was going to be okay, and they'd see me really soon. Now, I don't know if they believed everything that they said, but that's just kind of what parents do. They just try to make you comfortable and they try to protect you. And I needed to see them and they needed to see me. So they got me out to the helicopter and everything seemed to be going okay, except for the fact that they could not get me on the helicopter. Now, let me explain to you. This is not a county fair helicopter. This is a life flight from Duke. It carries people on it and stretchers for a living. Here's the problem. They couldn't fit me on the helicopter because they sent the smaller of the two helicopters to come get a 15-year-old kid. Well, I wasn't 15-year-old size, unfortunately. I was hanging off the stretcher. And well, one foot was hanging off the stretcher. Just going to be clear about that. So every time they kept sliding me into the helicopter, that foot kept hitting the front dash of the helicopter and they couldn't get me far enough in there. And they were freaking out. I mean, I'm going to tell you, the nurse and the pilot, the chopper blades are flying, the wind is blowing, it is total chaos, and they're yelling back and forth at each other. The pilot says, "Hey, we'll call for the other helicopter from Duke. It'll take, 15 minutes to get here." She yells back at him, "If we don't get him to Duke right now, he won't make it." So once again, where sign language would have come in very much handy, I didn't need to hear how badly things were. The next thing I know, this nurse leans over top of me. She says, "Chad, I got a plan to get you to Duke, but you got to trust me. It's going to be the scariest thing you've ever done in your whole life. But we're going to strap you down to this stretcher as tight as we can get you. I promise you, you will not fall off this stretcher." They got these 8 straps and they're already strapping me down as tight as they can. She said, "But we're going to take this stretcher and attach it to the outside of the helicopter in order to fly you up to Duke. It's the only way we can get you there." Did y'all just hear me? I'm totally kidding. That's not what she said. That was a joke. I'm just kidding. Y'all didn't believe me, did you? Raise your hand if you believe me. Be honest with you. Oh, y'all are so gullible, but I love it. That's awesome. So you shouldn't really believe everything that everybody tells you. No, let me tell you the true story. So I made this whole story up. I've just made it all. No, I'm just kidding. It is a true story. But here's what she said: "Strap you down to the stretcher as tight as we're going to get you, but we're going to take the stretcher and we're going to flip it almost completely upside down. We think if we can get it turned all the way upside down, then we can wedge it in there and lay you back down." She said, "But you're going to be looking at the concrete below you, and I promise you will not fall off this stretcher." So I met this nurse a year later, and she said, "Chad, do you have any idea how difficult it was to get you on that helicopter?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember everything." She said, "Do you know what you said to me when I told you that we were going to flip you upside down in the stretcher?" I said, "Ma'am, I have no idea." She said, "You looked right at me and said, 'Don't worry, if I fall off this stretcher, I will not run away.'" So, true story there. There would have been no running. I might have army crawled out of there with my little nubbies kicking in the background. But anyway, so it worked. They got me on the stretcher. They got me in the helicopter, and everything went amazing. Got to Duke. Great opportunity. I mean, amazing care at Duke. Great surgeons and great hospital. But even in that first surgery, they gave me about a 25% chance to live through the first surgery. I had lost so much blood. Everything's starting to shut down. The brain, the heart, everything is going wrong. Infection is running all through my body because I was in fresh water, and that had been soaking up in all of those fresh wounds. And so it was just a really bad situation. And so they gave me about a 15% chance that they could take the right leg that was still there, all exploded out, and put it back together. Now, this is not Legos, doesn't come with directions, and it's not just little fine pieces, because there's a bag over here with parts in it that I don't know that they know where they go. And there's arteries severed, nerves severed, veins severed. I mean, it's all exploded, and they're going to try to put it all back together and make it work. They didn't give that a big chance. They figured, like, more than likely with the infection as well, that they would amputate that leg as well. Then they gave me about a 50% chance, if I did survive the whole accident, that I would probably have severe brain damage, because that long of a period of time with no blood going to the brain and that much blood loss, you lose a lot of function sometimes. And so it really just depends on who you ask in my life, whether or not there's brain damage. There might be, the longer you get to know me, you might question that. So, but for the most part, we made it through. And, but yeah, they took the right leg and they did put it all back together again. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try to slap it up here on screen, see if you can see what it looks like. Now, don't judge me, because I've been on Zoom like for the last couple of weeks, and I don't normally dress much from waist below, but I did wear shorts today, but they are the same color as my shirt. So don't judge me on that either. So, but you can, now this normally doesn't bleed, but I whacked it on the bushes outside of my house the other day, but you can see all the skin grafts and where it was all put all back together. Man, that looks gnarly. I forgot about that. But it split all the way down. They put 5 big 12-inch screws in the side of the leg to hold it all back together and everything. And so it was really just exploded. They have 2 screws in the ankle holding it all together. Now, the only thing I can't do with this leg is I can't lift my foot up. I can't do this. Okay, it just kind of flops down. I can move my toes a little bit and things like that, but I can push down. I can use my calf muscle to push down, but I can't pull my foot up. So it's called a drop foot. And if you've seen somebody maybe with a stroke before, we call it in North Carolina, it looks like you're walking through a watermelon patch. So if that makes sense to you, you kind of stepping high to get over the watermelons. That's what it looks like with our right leg. Now, the left leg, they never found the foot. And so they had to amputate it and put it all back up. So I'm going to show you that pretty thing with my little Adidas. And so I will tell you a story about this leg a little bit later, but it is, well, I'll go ahead and tell you now. So it is really glittery, is it not? I mean, it is like bling, bling, crusted out. So the first one I sent to this guy who does custom car painting, I said, I want a bright red, shiny. He says, I got a 57 Chevy red. I'm going to paint it. It's going to look really bright and really amazing. So he painted it all up and it looked awesome. I mean, it looked unreal. So I said, all right, I got one more that I want you to do and just make it as bright and shiny as you can. He says, well, I got this platinum silver paint and I got this silver flake. And I'm like, flake? That sounds awesome, man. Just flake it up, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. And so he put it all back together and he goes and I come to pick it up and he shows me this leg. I was like, that is a lot of glitter on that leg. And he looks at me and he says, no, that's flake. That's what we call it, flake. And, you know, so I wish I would have known that, but now I have a glitter ball leg. And when the sun shines on it, people start dancing around me. I don't know how that works, but it's like a big old disco ball. So anyway, I digress. I spent about a month in the hospital, and in that month, man, it was touch and go for quite a while. A lot of surgeries, really on the right leg, trying to save it all. And first couple of weeks were a lot of a blur for me. But I had one rule in my room the entire time I was in the hospital. It was a no cry zone. You're not allowed to cry in the hospital. You're not allowed to cry in my room. Now, why did I do that? Number one, at that point in my life, I'd never seen my dad cry before. He was just the rock. He was my, tough dude. He was my country boy. He was my everything. And I'd never seen him cry before. And I wasn't ready for that. And I know he had a very difficult time going through all this. My mom cries over every movie she's ever seen in her life. So it's a whole another scenario there. So I'm trying not to see people upset because I don't like people being upset. I want everybody to be happy. And also, I didn't want to think about all the bad stuff. I wanted to think about all the positive things and just try to be busy. And so I was never alone in the hospital. There's always someone staying overnight with me in the hospital. And so I wore a mask for about 3.5 weeks in the hospital. It wasn't an oxygen mask or a Halloween mask. I'll see if you recognize it. Just nod your head if you do. That's my mask. That's what I like to call I'm okay. I'm good. I'm fine. When somebody says, hey, how are you doing today? I'm good. And that's the mask I wore for 3.5 weeks. I mean, I was always trying to make everybody else feel comfortable. When people would come and visit, I was trying to make jokes and say, hey, oh, rub where the foot used to be. I can still feel it and all that stuff. And so I was trying to make people feel comfortable. And I was trying to, be the light in the room and trying to make everybody happy. And so in doing that, I wore this mask on my face like I was perfectly okay. Now, I had no idea how I was. I had never had a chance to think about what I had gone through. I never had a chance to think about my future and what I had gone through and what the future held for me because I was always busy making everyone else feel okay. So about Thursday, 3.5 weeks in, the physical therapist brings a videotape to the room. Now, I don't know if you remember these things or not, probably not, but they're square VHS tapes. Okay, that's what movies used to be put on. And so they put one into the VCR. Those things they're actually really big and silver, and they play movies. So they put this tape in the VHS, and they said, hey, listen, this is going to inspire you. This is going to fire you up, going to show you what life can be like. You're going to be so excited to see this. It was a videotape of amputees playing basketball. And I was like, what? This is amazing. Because that doesn't shock not one of you today, because you've seen amputees do some crazy, amazing things on videos, climb mountains, run in the Olympics, all kinds of things. And so that doesn't surprise us today. But in 1991, I had never met anyone with one leg, never seen anybody with one leg, and they were not on the basketball courts balling it up in the afternoon. So I was like so thrilled to watch this. And they popped the videotape in, and I bet 10, 15 seconds after that videotape started playing, I wish I had not seen that video. It did the complete opposite for me. Did not inspire me, did not fire me up, did not show me what life was going to be like. Well, it did show me what life was going to be like, but it wasn't what I wanted to see. I thought I was going to see Michael Jordan with one leg, balling it up, dunking the ball. I had no idea, but I had bigger hopes than what I saw. Now, we have a saying in the South called bless your heart. I don't know if you've heard that before, but when you say bless your heart, it's normally not a compliment. So if I said, oh, hey, have you seen Savannah's hair today? Bless her heart. That's not normally a compliment to Savannah, right? So I'm just kidding, Savannah, your hair looks great. But I'm saying it is, bless their hearts, they barely ran, they barely jumped. They look like one-legged people trying to play basketball. And I immediately knew that my future was over with. Everything I ever wanted to do was not going to happen. Everything I ever wanted to accomplish, play pro sports, college sports, be active again, it was done. Because I said to myself, I will never, ever play another sport if that's what I'm going to look like. I'm not going to be the kid that runs up and down the court and everybody looks at him and goes, oh, he's doing so well. He's so inspiring. No, not me. I was not going to be that person. I played hard. I wanted to play hard. I wanted to be just like everyone else. I didn't want to and I knew it was all done. And watching that video, it did the worst for me. And so there's one night in the hospital that I had this whole sign-up sheet at my door that had every date of my entire stay. And at the top of it, it said, sign up to sleep with Chad. And it was aunts and uncles just staying in the room with me at night. Don't get any bad ideas. And so everybody was just signed up. Now there's one date that's missing. The same day I watched that video is the only date that is missing on that sign up to sleep with Chad list. The worst date of my entire life. And I am all alone. Nobody staying in my room. Nobody wearing my mask for. I was all alone. And that night was the first night I ever cried in the hospital. And I cried. I mean, it was like how I describe like middle school breakup cry. You remember what that was like, right? Like when you thought life was over with, snot bubbles are coming out of your nose, you're throwing stuff, you'll never love again. You know what that felt like. But I was devastated. I was just in a hot mess. And had I been able to get out of the bed that night and take my life, I probably would have. I saw nothing past the darkness. Only thing I could see was all the negative. I couldn't see any light at all. And I'm just thankful that I was too disabled to get out of the bed that night, because I couldn't see a reason to live anymore. And so I asked one question about 1,000 times that night. And it was, why? And why me? And I asked it over and over and over and over again. And as clearly as I'm speaking to you, I heard, don't worry, you'll find out. And I mean, I've asked for a lot of things in my life. I've prayed a lot of times, and I've been to church my whole life, and I've done all of those things, but I have never been spoken to before. And it wasn't much. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was just enough for me to say, you know what? Maybe there is something good. Maybe there will be a reason. Maybe something good will come out of this. As a 15-year-old kid, I laid there and I made a decision that I could either fight or give up. And that was my choice. And giving up was feeling sorry for myself, laying in the bed, and nobody would have blamed me. Everybody would have been like, you know what? It's okay. All the things he's been through, it's okay if he quits. It's all right. But I didn't want to. I didn't want to quit. And even though I decided to fight, even though I decided to do everything I could to get better and better, I still had extremely low expectations for my life. I mean, I'll never be the person I want to be, but you know what? I'm still going to fight anyway. Maybe something good will come out of all of this. And so I decided to fight, whether it's sitting on the edge of the bed, whether it was standing up, whether it was taking a few steps, whether learning how to walk again, building my strength up, whatever the situation was, I was going to fight 100%. And when you do that in your life, you will eventually see how good you can be. Because if you keep going through the motions and just doing enough and limiting yourself, every step of the way in your journey, you build higher and you grow higher and you get better and you get better and you improve on yourself. And if you ever want to see how amazing that you can turn out to be and what your true potential is, you haven't even gotten close to your true potential yet. But if you ever want to see what it is, you got to stop going through the motions. You got to fight 100% for the things that you want. You have to go after them. You have to give them every shot. Now, I will tell you that you will fail way more than you will succeed. And you will not get everything that you want. But as long as you fight 100% to get there, you can sleep at night and know that you gave it every drop of energy you had, and the good things will come. And for me, I ended up playing 2 years of basketball for my high school. I never saw that coming. I never thought that I would be be able to do those kind of things. Ended up playing golf, 2 years of basketball for my high school, started all the games, and was just as good as almost everybody on the court. And when I played, nobody knew I had an artificial leg. Obviously my hometown did, but the people I played against in the other towns did not know. Now, I did not have my bling bling glitter ball leg. I had one that looked like a real leg, had skin and foam and shaped like a real leg. And it looked almost identical to the other one. It was shaped identical, but it looked like I shaved one of my legs. Okay. And I have a white person problem, I'm going to admit. During the summer, I get really, really dark. And during the winters, I get really, really white. And so for $16,000 a leg, you can't have the shades of your life in legs. It's just too expensive to have. So when I played basketball, I used to wear high socks. I covered up all the scars on my right leg, and I covered up my entire leg on the other side, all the way up. So I was a goofy white boy back in the 90s that had these big, long tube socks covering up all my legs. And I looked like a Kurt Rambis. If you don't know who he is, you can Google him, but he was a bad looking dude. And so I looked like I had terrible fashion sense, but it was fine with me because nobody knew, and I didn't want to be treated differently. And so when we're playing at Pinecrest High School in Southern Pines, North Carolina, and my senior year, and I jumped up for a rebound really high, I grabbed it and I came down and I threw it out for a fast break and I fell underneath the goal. And I got back up and I took off again and I fell again. And I could not run. I could not go anywhere. Nothing hurt. I had no idea what was happening. Nobody's paying attention to the goofy white boy with bad fashion sense that's laying on the court that can't go anywhere. They're watching the fast break. And so I realized what had happened to me. They promised me never, ever in the history of this company, it will never happen. It has never happened and can never happen. You cannot break your prosthesis. It's made with carbon graphite. It's strong. And I had snapped this thing in two. Now, I have broken 11 of them since I've started wearing them. The company doesn't like me very much that sells me these things because I normally try to do it right before the warranty goes out. So they send me a new one because they are very expensive. But this thing was snapped in two. Now, they don't bleed when they break. And they don't hurt when they break, right? And it's covered with foam and it's covered with skin and socks and you can't see anything at all. So I start hopping off the court, right? And so I'm on my right leg and I'm trying to hop off the court to get off the court. Of course, now everybody in the whole gym's looking at me and people are now screaming, running out of the gym. Babies are crying. Like it is just total chaos. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is everybody freaking out? And I look back. And about mid-shin, my foot is hanging down and doing 360s. And it looks like Paul George's leg did when he snapped his leg in two, minus the blood. And it's just flopping around behind me, snapped in two. And nobody in this gym except my teammates know it's a fake leg. They all assume it's real. And I'm hopping off like there's nothing wrong in the world and that thing's broken in two, flopping around. And the other teammates for the other team are running beside me going, man, just lay on the ground, man. Get down on the ground. Don't move. And my teammates are over there laughing. Can you just imagine what it looked like to watch those terrible children laugh at their teammates whose legs snapped in two? But they knew it was fake. Nobody else knew. And so I'm hopping to the bench going, get away from me. I'm fine. Just leave me alone, And they're like, oh, my God, this guy is like Superman. He feels no pain. I mean, he is amazing. So I've had a lot of fun with it over the years. Halloween is always a lot of fun, but I won't go into some of those stories. You can read about those in the book if you'd like to. I did write a book about a year ago called Severed Dreams, and it's a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to read it, it's awesome. But so anyway, man, my journey has been absolutely insane. There's been so many bumps in the road. There have been so many tough moments, bullying in school, to just feeling different. I remember my freshman year in high school being the most confident kid in school. And going into my sophomore year, I was scared to walk through the doors of my high school because I was different and I was not like anyone else anymore. And I couldn't do all the things I wanted to do. I had no identity anymore except for the one-legged guy. I couldn't play football anymore. I couldn't be part of a team anymore. So all of these things really just were tough for a young kid, and learning to love who I was now and learning to appreciate my body and all those things. And there's a lot, of stories in the book that are amazing about that. But man, I have just been so blessed by everything that I've gone through. I've worked with youth groups all, in my town and youth all over the country. And I speak to tons of corporations all over the company, the Fortune 500s to athletic teams to spent time with the Buffalo Bills a year ago and went and spoke for Clemson and Debo and the whole team and spent some couple of days with them, speaking to them. And so I've had amazing opportunities to go and speak all over the country for the last 25 years and professionally for the last about 6 years full time speaking. And obviously right now there's not a lot of that going on with everything that's happening, but we'll be back on the road soon. But messages that I would like to just share with you is, people ask me all the time about, what's my advice and what I'd say. And I'm going to open it up for questions here in a minute. You can fire away and ask anything in the world you want to ask, but control the things that you can control in your life. And right now it's a very difficult time, but for the rest of your life, there's going to be very few things in your life that you're going to be able to control 100%. There's so many things that are out of our control, and yet we get so bent out of shape trying to control those things and trying to worry about those things that we can't control. You've got enough. You got your attitude that you can control. You got your drive and your fight that you can control. And there's not one person in the world that can make you feel hurt. No one that can make you feel bad about yourself. There's no one in the world that can hurt you if you choose to be happy and choose the right things. And no matter how many times you fall, no matter how many times that you fail, you are worth the fight, and you are worth finding out how amazing that you can be. And the last thing I tell people is, listen, what's happened in the past, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to leave it. You have to go away from it. You have to learn from it, and you have to move on. You have to get better from your mistakes and the things that you've screwed up on and improve, but you can't dwell on it. You can't fix it. You can't change it. And I've just really tried to spread a message of hope around the country. And there's people all over that are hurting, that are ready to quit, and they think that they're alone, and they think that, nobody understands. But just know, man, there are people that are so willing to pour into you and help you and to support you and to get you through the things that you're trying to get through. And this is an amazing group that you have here with James and the rest of the crew, and all of the support you have from each other, getting to know each other and using the opportunity to bounce things off. Everybody on this screen is going through something right now. And you think that you're the only person in the world going through it, and you don't think anybody's going to understand. But there are people going through things that are similar, and there are people that can help you and that can support you along the way. So, man, I urge you to use this group in a way that it's not just to gain a little bit of information every once in a while. It's a family. And that's what the whole Ziglar group has done for adults as well as kids. And I'm proud of James and them for doing what it is that they're doing and giving you an opportunity to be the best you possible. And so I am just going to stop jibber jabbering and get out of the way, but I'm going to be here for whatever questions you want to ask. If you don't ask them, I'm going to start calling names and just making you talk. So I would suggest you start asking some questions. And if there's anything I can do in the future, follow me. James will get out all of my information. You want to follow me on social media, you want to reach out to me and just chat with me individually, I am more than happy to be that for you. So fire away, man. Unmute yourself and talk away.
Told you this group
I'll say
starts off
something.
slow.
All right. Who was that?
Me.
Kelsey.
So I think it's really good that I came to or logged on here today, because like I recently, I'm not saying I'm an athlete by anything, but went to a small school, so I got to play basketball because they asked me to be on the team, so they had enough players. But I recently, in November, I tore my ACL and my meniscus in my knee at the alumni basketball game. Super embarrassing. My stepmom was the one I was worried about, and I was the one to tear my ACL. But there's a lot of like physical and emotional parts to it. So I think some of the things I resonated with what you said, and I never thought because my sister, she's torn both of her ACLs and gone through like 4 knee surgeries, and I just figured, it's just something you physically have to do. You just got to get stronger. But there's a lot of like emotional and mental game to it. So what advice do you usually give to people that are struggling with the emotional and the mental side to something like a physical trauma or
Yeah,
any kind of trauma?
so it's, I think more than anything that is important is just surrounding yourself with people that you can lean on, and talk to. And sometimes it comes down to, you don't need somebody for the answers. You don't need somebody to fix your problems. You just need somebody to sit there and listen to you every once in a while and to get things off your chest, and just know that you're worth the fight. I mean, that is the biggest thing that, I mean, almost in every book that I sign, that's what I write at the beginning: you are worth the fight. Because if you know that you're worth amazing things, you're deserving of great things in your life, then you'll be more apt to fight for yourself and to stick it up and go through it and get through the pain. And, you just have to, have hope and faith that things are going to get better. Like no matter how hard it is, things will get better. But you're going to have to put in that time to get there, and lean on people. Don't think you can do it on your own. So I appreciate you sharing.
So I kind of have a similar, I guess, athlete-ish kind of story. So I run cross country, and this past year was my first year doing it. Well, by the end of the season, I had made regionals and everything, but I had severely torn my right IT band,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't even realize that's what I had torn, or like that I had that injury until the week of regionals, that Monday. And I remember it tearing me apart. My coach and like the sports medicine person telling me, you don't need to run all week until Saturday if we feel like you can. So I was tore apart because I'm like, dang, this is my first time like running cross country, and I've made it to regionals. Like, what? Like I was just tore apart by this. And I just try to keep a positive mindset and everything. But I'm one, like, if I stick to something, I'm going to do it and go all the way through with it, no matter what it is. So I was so tempted to like just keep running even though I couldn't, but I still go to practice just so I could be with everybody. I just like sit and stretch my little leg out or whatever. And I ended up running regionals, and I ended up running my best time in the season, even though I still had my injury.
Yeah.
But I feel like looking back at that, like I'm glad that I like, stuck, gosh, I'm fumbling my words. I'm glad I stuck with it and pushed myself even though I was going through that. But I feel like something I could have done better was honestly slow down a little bit, whether it was actually physically or my mind. And that's something like, I mean, being a little vulnerable here that I kind of struggle with. So what's your tips for like slowing down a little bit when you need to kind of take a break and kind of helping to realize when you need to?
Yeah, I think that is tough, man, especially when you're driven and you're an athlete. You hide the injuries sometimes, and you don't tell coaches about things, and you just want to stay out on the field. It's the winner's mentality. But I think that things happen for reasons. And I think, for you, maybe not running for a couple of days helped you get your best time ever. Maybe it was a little bit of a small break that helped you to get your best time ever. But we have to lean on those people that know better than we do sometimes. We have to lean on our coaches and lean on our parents and lean on our sports med people or whoever it is to take a breath sometimes and know that it's okay to rest. It's okay to mentally repair, because you can't take care of everyone else, and you can't take care of all the things you need to unless you take care of yourself first. And sometimes, that just comes with age, and I think and maturity a lot of the times, knowing that, you can push yourself and you need to, but you have to recover, and you have to give yourself a mental break as well. I mean, especially with school and college and all the things that you guys are dealing with right now. You have to recuperate. You have to set back and reevaluate things. But I think you have to just lean on people who have been there before and ask for help once again. So I appreciate that. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Chloe, I'm glad you brought up that story, because that's pretty much 100% what happened to me. Is I had stress injuries from overtraining in cross country. And as a freshman, I had been injured for 3 years and kept on running on it. And my dad would literally ground me from running so I wouldn't run. And I'd run in the middle of the night, and he didn't know it. And
Hardhead.
My sophomore year, I ended up getting injured so bad that I had to take a season off, and I did physical therapy an hour away 3 days a week. And I got all better and then I like went way too hard right back into it again. And I actually ended up long-term hurting my ribs. And so that like affects me in daily things. And so I guess my advice there is I was so frustrated. I was just ready to quit, and running was my life at that point. But that was a really cool opportunity for me to use my dad's words of wisdom. He always told me that life is 10% what happens and 90% of what you make out of it. And so it was that was a test of resilience. And I think Chad, your whole story is a test of resilience too. And so that was a cool opportunity where I was able to actually be the manager for my team and pursue other leadership roles, because a lot of new opportunities opened up because I had more free time.
Awesome. You made the most of it. Very difficult to do sometimes.
Mr. Porter, I gotta ask, can you explain your t-shirt?
I wish I could, to be honest with you. Everybody in the world, I wear this shirt a lot, and especially when I'm going through, it happens to be my flying shirt. So whenever I'm walking, and I've never had a shirt in my entire life that more people have been like, oh my God, I love your shirt. And they ask me what it means. And it's like, I have no idea. I saw it on Instagram, and it's actually from a company that makes like workout clothing. So I guess it's kind of like, you're so amazing at working out, you're like part unicorn. I don't know what it means, but people love it. They've even got one that says unicorn. So I guess that's like for somebody really, really special. I'm just, I guess, part unicorn. So, but people love it. I have no idea what it means, but it's been the most complimented piece of clothing I've ever owned in my entire life. I have no idea why. So I wish I could help you.
Anyone else before we transition?
Caden.
Right, Caroline?
Oh. I'm in Battle of the Books, and I mean, I am a athlete. I play tennis too, but ever since the coronavirus happened, well, like we won like the county Battle of the Books, but then coronavirus happened and I couldn't go to regionals, and it was kind of sad. But then I realized, I mean, people are literally starving, and I mean, they're going through much worse times than just not being able to compete in Battle of the Books.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And what, a lot of my story obviously revolves around athletics and things like that, but you are going to deal with things for the rest of your life that you're going to have to fight through. It's going to be relationship things. It's going to be personal battles. It's going to be emotional battles. There's a lot of things that you're going to deal with. So, sports is just happens to be what were a big part of my life at the time. But learning to love who it is that you are and appreciating, like you said, Caroline, I think it's important to understand that as bad as we think we have it, sometimes there's always worse. We got to remember all the blessings that we do have and all the good things that we do have in our lives. And we get bent up out of shape sometimes thinking about the things that we don't have and we wish we had. And but we're all pretty blessed, just to be able to hang out today, to be able to do those things. So I appreciate that. That was awesome. Caden, did you want to talk?
Yes, sir. I put it up on the chat, but my
Okay.
question was, what led you from going to playing basketball in high school, after the incident, and then starting to speak about it and being so open to the public about your experiences?
Great question. I get that one probably the second most outside of what happened to the toenail. People always ask me, well, what foot was the toenail on? And so I took care of the toenail. The toenail is in the lake somewhere. So I dramatically took care of that toenail. But for 2.5 weeks, that toenail killed me in the hospital. I took pain medicine because that toenail still hurt. And I don't know if it was a turtle biting it in the lake or what was happening. But anyway, but to answer your question, the first time I told my story completely was my senior year in high school at Youth Sunday at my church. I told the story for the first time, and just kind of from my perspective. Everybody knew parts or some of it, or read it in the newspaper, or knew the family, but nobody had heard me tell it before. And I immediately had people just coming up to me and telling me their stories immediately. And that's when I knew that I had done something right, when somebody now is comfortable enough when telling me their story and their struggles and the things that they went through, and how much it helped to hear someone else. And so from that point forward, I was like, I want to do this a lot. So I just started sharing it as much as I could. But then I went to college, and then I started a real job like I was supposed to, and did all the things that, you know, the world tells you you need to do. And I never saw speaking as a career. I thought it was just a God calling, and I thought it's what I was supposed to do. And I thought I was just supposed to help people and serve people that way. And actually, I sat down when I went to, and I started doing some speaking professionally, but I was never comfortable with taking money to speak. I just was never comfortable doing it. And I actually, when I went through Ziglar training, I actually sat down with Tom for quite a while in the office. And Tom and I kind of sat there, and he looked at me and said, listen, do you have something that people need to hear? And I said, yeah. He said, do you think you're as good as anyone else in the country? I said, yeah, sure. I mean, I think that the story's powerful, and I think that it resonates. And he says, well, if you have something that people need, if you have something that would improve people's lives, and you have the obligation to get it to them. And if that means that you have to take money to get the message out there, then you have an obligation to do that. He said, they're going to pay somebody somewhere to come in and try to inspire or motivate their group. And if you think that they need to hear you, then you need to get comfortable doing that. And so from that point forward, it almost gave me permission to say, you know what, it's okay to prosper from sharing something that is so powerful that can help people. And so, man, I have been wide open since. I mean, I have, even before then, my very first year, I had 35 events my first year, and I average almost 50 to 60 events per year right now. This year will be a little bit slower, I have a feeling, but we'll catch back up, and that'll be fine. But man, everybody here has a story. Everybody here has things that they've gone through. It doesn't have to be losing a leg, or it doesn't have to be anything majorly devastating in your mind, but you have gone through things that you can share with others and help others get through what they're going through. Every single one of you has a story. So share your story. And when you inspire someone and you help someone get through what they're going through, the feeling is unreal. It is unreal. So I encourage you all to share as much as possible.
Chad, if you'll stick around to the end, we'll ask some questions, let you guys stay on and ask the questions there as well. But I wanted to thank you